Welcome, everybody, to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive. This show is probably going to make you feel hopeful. It just is. Why? Because I'm talking to two really fabulous people who are in love and have been married for a good long time, and they put all their best advice, not only from being in love and getting it right, but also from being fabulous coaches and helping others. Orna and Matthew Walters are world-renowned dating coaches and founders of Creating Love on Purpose, with a holistic approach to transforming hidden blocks to love. And they're the authors of Getting It Right This Time, Break Free from Your Hidden Blocks to Lasting Love. So it came out this year. You've got to buy this book. It's an amazing book. Orna and Matthew have been featured on countless television, radio, and print outlets. They're just beautiful people. You're absolutely going to love this interview. Regardless of whether you're looking for love or you're looking to reclaim love in a relationship you're in right now, you're going to love this interview and it's going to help you. So, the guests I have on the show, I choose specifically because I know they're going to share information which will make your life as an emotional eater or food addict easier to live. And when life is easier, when we know how to navigate our emotions, navigate relationships, navigate tough situations in our lives, we don't have to eat. We have new tools for dealing with reality. So we don't have to go hiding in food. So these guests nail it. So, Orna and Matthew, hello and welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. Again, you've been here before.
Yes, hello. It's great to be here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great to be back. Hi,
yeah.
Tricia.
I'm so happy to have you back, and it has been a long time, I will say. And now you're best-selling authors, so congratulations for that. Super cool. I went to the book signing and opening, which was so great. It's so nice to see you both up there reading from your book and talking about really important principles around relationships. So, I would just love if you would start by telling your story of love.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
I guess I'll go first. Really, so much of the work we do centers around learning about love in your family of origin, right? Because we learn to walk and talk and do everything else there. And I grew up in a very chaotic and abusive, violent household. So,
Which many of our listeners have as well.
yeah. And so I just ignored that part of my life. I was definitely boy crazy as a girl.
I
But
relate to that.
it's definitely boy crazy. I worked in the film industry for a long time, the entertainment industry, music and film, and I just, I was like married to my work gal. And in my 30s, I had like a spiritual awakening. I started meditating, and at the end of meditation, I decided I would ask myself this question: what do I really want? And for a while, I didn't get an answer. And then when the answer came, it was like a message straight across my third eye, like LOVE with a purple hue backdrop. And I was like, no, no,
Oh,
no,
wow. You
no.
weren't conscious of that.
I was like, no, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. Like, I was like, please, God, please, anything else. It has to be something else.
Wow.
Because when I finally gave in and I started, like, I was like, okay, let me study love then. It has, there must be something, right? There must be a way to do this, like, with intention and purposeful, because I changed so many parts of my life that way. And so basically, everywhere I went to look for help, this conventional wisdom that was always distilled to me was, oh, just pick somebody from a good family. And that struck terror in my heart. I thought, well, then nobody's going to pick me. Like, my family's horrible. I was like, there's no. Again, I was just like, no, no, no. And I did. I really became like a student of love. Like, I decided to make having a great love relationship a priority. And I think it really came along with the spiritual awakening of what's really most important. And I knew I was somebody that didn't want to have kids. So it wasn't about, raising kids with somebody or anything like that. And I sort of like to juxtapose, I'm going to like put a pin in my story because I think a lot of your listeners may relate to my story, but I think there's a lot of people that struggle in love that come from wonderful families So I'm going to pass it to Mr. Wonderful Family, Family of Origin Matthew here, so he could give another perspective.
You're so sweet. So, I mean, my parents were married 57 years before my mother passed back
Wow.
in 2014. And on the surface, we seemed like the ideal family. And in fact, all our neighbors thought that, right? I have three older brothers and an older sister. I'm the youngest of five. And I endured the worst amount of teasing and bullying and all of that as a kid growing up. And I learned very early on to believe that there was something wrong with me. And so that played out in all of my intimate relationships. I was attracted to rejection because that felt normal.
Yeah.
And when I would meet a woman who was really into me, I'd be like, I don't know, what's wrong with you? And then I'd think, well, wait till you get to know me, and then we'll see how you feel. And I would sabotage those relationships. In fact, I had a friend of mine a few years ago let it spill. She said, I can't believe I'm getting relationship advice from the guy I used to refer to as the toxic bachelor. Right? I was that classic, here today, ghosting you tomorrow, sending all kinds of mixed signals, just
Which
not.
I'm sure many people relate to who are listening, male
Yeah,
or female.
exactly. And either whether you've dated that person or been that person, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until my early 30s when I sobered up. I've been sober now 23 years, coming up in
Beautiful.
September, that I really began to look at my own life and say, wait a minute, I'm the one that's in charge of my happiness. And so I better take charge of my happiness, because if I don't, I'm going to continue, being miserable. And that really began a journey for me of yoga and meditation and hypnosis and all these other amazing tools. And that's when in my mid 30s, I'm like, you know what? I actually think I do want a relationship. I never thought I wanted one. And so I went looking for my woman. I went on a quest to find her.
You want to tell the story about the
Oh,
New Year's
well,
Eve day?
yes. So I gotten into a tradition with a friend of mine of regularly doing vision boards on New Year's Day. And January of 2007, January 1st, I created my vision board with this 3 pictures of different women, all with dark curly hair.
Aww.
And then
And for those we're just listening,
yes,
punchline, Orna has dark curly hair.
yes. And it was end of August, beginning of September that we had our first date.
Love it. I love we actually do at Heal Your Hunger. We open it up to everybody. We do a January 1st vision boarding for the year. So I love that. The power of vision boards is so incredible.
Well, it was cute because just before the end of the year, his friend reached out and said, "Are you and Orna coming to my vision board party on the 1st?" And Matthew's like, "Oh yeah, we plan on coming." She's like, "Bring your vision board from last year." And so Matthew, we walk in together and he's like, "Here's my vision board from last year, and here is my woman."
Oh my
really
God,
cute.
that's awesome. So
Yeah,
powerful.
and I think also I want to also share that one of the things about the early part of our relationship was we ended up meeting through a business networking group. So I had left the entertainment industry, and I hung my shingle as a life coach. I called myself a manifestation coach. I utilized
I think that's how we met, Orna.
of hand analysis. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I was
back then.
trained in hand analysis, and I joined this local networking group, and Matthew had also left entertainment for personal growth and was trained in hypnosis and NLP, neuro-linguistic programming and therapeutic imagery. So that's how we actually met. And I think it's sort of interesting that we ended up creating a business together, because we had no idea that that was going to be in the cards for us. Certainly when we started dating. But one of the things that I want to share that I think is so important because of who Matthew had been, which he just shared with you, right? That's sort of like here today, goes tomorrow kind of thing. And just
Classically emotionally unavailable.
yeah. And that I never once had to ask Matthew, well, where is this going? Like I never ever had to ask him,
He
because
was very clear.
yeah, from day one, he showed me that he wanted to be in a relationship with me. He was the one moving the relationship forward. He was the one invited me to meet his parents over Christmas, that first Christmas together. He showed me every step of the way. I never had to wonder what his intentions were or where it was going. He was very clear that he wanted not just to be in a relationship, but that he wanted to be in a relationship with me.
I love that. I love that. And I want to, for the listeners, I want to just say, for those who have no idea what a vision board is, it's basically creating a visual, it's visual intention setting. Like you
Mm.
are, like what's on your heart, you create a visual for it on a board, like paper, poster board, whatever. And when we do it, Heal Your Hunger, we do it on Zoom, and we cut out things from magazines, or now you can print things from Canva, and you just create it. But there's something so powerful about setting your intention and going to the lengths of putting it on a board, putting the glue and all and everything, and whatever affirmations you want. But it's really getting clear, like Orna is saying, it's getting clear about what your intentions are and what you want. You're claiming it. And that just helps the universe, God, know what you need and what you want, and I believe God knows, even if we don't put a board on it, pictures to it, but it helps. Like it just helps really get focused, right? And so it just works.
Well, in the book, we break it down into 3 steps, right?
Okay,
There's 3
great.
sections in the
Let's
book.
go
So
there.
the first step is awareness, the second step is transformation, and the final step is manifestation. And we're talking about manifestation
Yeah.
right now. But you have to do the awareness and the transformation first.
You mean it doesn't
However,
just happen from one day of vision boarding?
no, exactly,
But I
exactly.
just think people
But
want to skip to the manifestation
Yeah,
because
yeah,
this is the
that's
fun
the
part.
sexy and fun part, right? Like
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing to do really is to look in the mirror and go, okay, this is who I am, like warts and all, and I love me anyway.
Yeah.
And as a recovering perfectionist, I think it's really important. I know you and I, Tricia, have had this conversation before, right? That this idea of being perfect is too high a bar. And we always say judgment is the biggest block to love. And so if you don't even measure up to your standards, then no partner will ever measure up for you either. Because the judgment piece is so hard to get over, because if you're constantly falling short for yourself and beating yourself up and your inner critic is lit up, it's very difficult to let love in from that place, right? And that
Amen.
the way you heal judgment is through compassion,
Yeah.
right? Compassion for self, compassion for others, and compassion for our limitations. Like being perfect is too high a bar. And it's sort of like, oh, when I allowed my humanness to really be like, oh, okay, I'm going to make best efforts, right? I'm going to make best efforts to do my best, keep my word, don't take on too much. And really, this was one of the biggest turning points for me in my life in letting love in, was my relationship with myself. And so that really is the first section of getting it right this time. I'm going to hold her up again because
Yeah.
it's
There
just
you
kind of a
go.
miracle that she's here. It's like this book was such a labor of love. It's really our life's work in a book. And to be, with the division of Penguin Random House, the largest publisher on earth, is a dream come true. But I know for me specifically, the book really is a representation of how far I've come in my own life, because the library, I think, really saved me in my childhood. It was my favorite place to be. I've always been a voracious reader, but I could lose myself in books as a girl and sort of escape the home that I grew up in. It was my safe space. And to think that today my name's on a book in the library.
Yeah.
It just
So
it's
beautiful.
pretty it's a pretty surreal feeling still.
It's a big friggin' deal. And I remember when you guys got the, you got the book deal. I remember when you got the deal. And then all the work came after that. I want to put a pin in something
Hmm.
that I think is really important. And that's that, and I know this is the all throughout your book, um, is that it is a personal development journey.
Hmm.
Like you don't just jump to what you want and where you want to be. It's like you realize, oh, it starts with me and it starts within. And that's true for the weight loss journey as well. We're all looking for the hack, right? We all want to game the system. And my experience is, and I say this about Heal Your Hunger, it's weight loss from the inside out. And we have to embrace that personal development journey in order to manifest our dreams and our goals, because that's where it starts. So can we kind of, and you guys are just living, breathing, beautiful examples of that.
Thank you. Thank you so
Well,
much.
yeah, let's talk about that journey, because when we initially speak with someone who might be interested in working with us, one of the things they're really clear on is they're clear on what they do not want, because they've had bad experiences. And whether it's, an addict or a cheater or emotionally unavailable or whatever the story is, they know what they don't want. But they're really fuzzy about what they want, because they know it's in some ways the opposite of what they don't want, but that's still not clear. And so what you first have to do is you have to figure out the "you are here" spot on the map. You have to know where you are. We always use this analogy. If you go into the mall and you come up to the map, right? And it says "you are here," but somebody scraped that off. So you don't know where you are in the mall, but you're looking for that fancy luggage store. That's, that tiny little store. And so you have to wander around the mall until you hope to stumble upon the store you're looking for. And that's how most people are doing love. They're wandering around hoping that someday they might stumble into somebody who is their match, who fits for them. However, once you discover where you are, that awareness piece, the "you are here" spot on the map, then it becomes clear. So in order to get from here to get to there, oh, well, now I have a journey. I have a map. I have a steps I can take that's going to get me closer and closer to that destination. And so awareness is that first step. It's looking at what are the limiting beliefs I have? What are the emotional stories I'm carrying around? And most importantly, what is my love imprint? What is the subconscious programming that I'm carrying from childhood that I learned in my family of origin that is actually my GPS for love? Because our subconscious is great at highlighting things that feel familiar. So when you meet that person who matches that core wound from childhood, this alarm goes off that goes, "This is familiar, this is familiar, this is familiar." And we mistake that familiar alarm for excitement and attraction, when oftentimes what it's saying is "run away."
Ooh, that's so good. So good. So important for emotional eaters to hear, because we typically come from places that aren't so whole, and I think that's so right on that we mistake the familiar for the fabulous when it's not. It's just familiar.
It's
Yeah.
just familiar. Yeah. I mean, think about it for species survival, because our behavior is guided by the subconscious mind. Some people science will say, up to 90% of our behavior is on autopilot from the subconscious. And think about that sensation of walking into a room full of people you've never met before. I'm sure everybody listening right now can relate to this experience. Let's say you walk into a room of 50 to 100 people, you don't know anybody in the room, but there's a few people that are highlighted. They're brighter than everybody else. I mean, the other people are there, but they're like the extras in your own little personal movie. They're kind of gray and in the background. And these people that are brighter, it isn't necessarily an attraction, like a chemistry spark, but it's just your mind is highlighting them. Remember, in every moment, there's like 2 million bits of information in each moment that our subconscious is filtering through. And its job is to keep you alive. And so because you're alive today, all it does is highlight the familiar because you're still alive. But it can't judge. That happens only in the big prefrontal cortex. So there's a flaw in the system, because our subconscious will always guide us to the familiar. And it's up to us to go, wait, is this familiar in alignment with what I desire? Or is this familiar, that old stuff that I don't want to see anymore? And this is why you see people get stuck in these patterns of selecting the same kind of person.
Well, that's right. And I will say, I mean, you guys know my story a bit, at least, which is I did leave a 30-year relationship and I'm now in a beautiful relationship. But the new and unfamiliar is scary, right? Because it doesn't match our subconscious or our programming of what we deserve and what we're worth. And I've had to do my own work of, oh my God, it's so good. Let me screw it up now. So
Absolutely.
which I haven't so far. I
Yeah.
haven't done, but I've had to be super aware of the car that wants to drive over here because that's the way
Yeah.
it's always driven, right? So
Well,
I
that's
love,
what's really great about the book because you can think of the book like if you're going to fly on a trapeze the first time, I don't care how much you've thought about it, studied it, aerodynamics, whatever, strength training, whatever you need to do to fly on a trapeze, you're going to want a net in
yeah,
case something goes wrong. You're going to want to fall on that net. And you can think of this book as your net.
I love that.
And even though we serve singles and are at creating love on purpose, right? We don't work with couples. We work with people who are in relationships sometimes if one person wants to do the work and the other person doesn't. But this book is really for anybody. So if you're in a relationship right now and you're not sure if you want to stay or go, or you're not sure if you're with the right person, or your own stuff is coming up, like you're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I don't want to screw it up. I'm the problem. Like that Taylor Swift song, like, hey, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. This book will help you. There's one chapter on our dating strategies in the third manifestation section of the book. And so if you're not dating, just, you probably don't want to skip the chapter because there's good tidbits in there. Every chapter has client stories and stories about us. But I mean, this book is really, it is that personal discovery journey about how your heart is wired together. And is it serving you in your bigger goals about what you want about love? Or do you need some transformation? What's working, what's not, and how to really manifest those changes so you can bring in a beloved life partner or make your mate into your soulmate.
Amen.
We had a client, it was a gentleman in his 60s, very smart man. He was a therapist, very self-aware. And he came from a family in which his parents both set a very high standard for who to be and how to be in the world. In fact, his dad passed when he was 16, so he never actually got to get that approval from his father. And his mother was very socially conscious in the sense of she was very much thinking about the appearance of things. And so they always had to appear a certain way. And so when he comes to us, he describes the woman that he's looking for as this high status woman who has it all together. She has style, she's successful, she's smart, and he's very attracted to this kind of woman. And yet as he starts dating, he ping-pongs between somebody like that, where he feels insecure the whole time he's with her.
Insecure and needy.
Insecure and needy
Actually.
Oh.
when he meets
no.
this kind of woman. Or he dates another kind of woman who he feels is being needy and insecure with him, and he doesn't really respect. And so he's stuck in this double bind, we'll say. And at some point, he meets a woman that he thinks is it. And she's a little cold, unless she has a couple drinks and then she warms up to him. But he's feeling that insecure, I'm not on firm ground, but, butterflies and excitement at the same time. And then the whole thing crashes and burns. And he comes to us and we say, well, look, this feeling you're describing is not what love feels like. Right? And so many of us have that idea that love feels like butterflies, like we're floating on air, like we're constantly thinking about somebody. We can't stop thinking about them. It's almost obsessive, right? And we're just spinning about it all the time and go, did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? And that's not love. What love is something that feels very comfortable. It feels very, for lack of a better word, safe. Because
And solid.
And solid because you
Yeah.
know you can be yourself with this person and they're going to accept you as you are. And so he had this realization. He goes, so wait a minute. So that feeling that I think I'm looking for is not the feeling I'm looking for. And we said, yes. That feeling you're looking for is your core wound, your love imprint saying, this is familiar, this is familiar, this is familiar. And so we want everybody listening who struggles in love to think about that. What is it when you've met somebody and you think, oh, this is the one, this is my soulmate, however you think about that. What does that feel like? Does it feel like you're grounded, like you're connected to the earth and like your heart is opening? Or does it feel like you're floating and you're spinning and you're nervous and you're anxious and all those other feelings that are going with it?
Yeah, if you're feeling off balance, love doesn't feel like that.
Yeah.
I think early on, we've done so many interviews together. Early on in our work together, I was asked a lot, how did you know it was Matthew? And so I did a lot of thinking about it. How did I know that Matthew was my person? And the only way that I could describe it was that old feeling, the feeling I used to have where I would be insecure and is he going to call? And, what did I do that right? And all of that inner critic stuff was not there.
Mm, I
And
love
I felt really curious about Matthew. I was so comfortable. I wanted to know more. And then as our relationship developed and grew, the only way I could really describe it for myself, and I don't know if it'll feel the same for someone listening right now, but the only way I could really describe it was I felt like I was standing firmly on Mother Earth. Like I had great big roots, like an oak tree, and I was just standing still and calm and just solid. I was standing on solid ground. But I also felt this elation. Like if I chose to, I had wings and I could take flight. And so that feeling of having roots and wings was a completely new experience of love for me. And that's what really let me know that this amazing man was my person.
I love that description. That is so amazing. And I think really helpful. I think it's really helpful for people to know, like, what feeling am I going for? I find a lot of people are in their head too much. I have a lot of women friends who are looking for love, and I feel like people are often in their head. Like he ticks off this box, this box, this
Oh,
box,
yeah.
he's this, right? So we're in our heads, like he has to be this, this, and this. And I'm thinking, gosh, I mean, I met my guy through Bumble. And we're if you're looking for the boxes checked initially that you can do on a dating app, we don't like there's it makes no sense that we hooked up. And yet the other boxes that never show up on the dating app are all checked. But I think it's I love that it's a feeling where, and you want to be in that place. You don't want to be in your head. You don't want to be in your head. It's not an intellectual enterprise. It is like it's happening in your heart, right? And that's what you're describing.
Well, I think we always say to have an ideal match for the long term, your head and your heart play a role, but they need to be in
Yes.
harmony.
Yes.
So if your head and your heart are in harmony, that's a good fit.
I love that.
I
Yeah.
mean, I remember the first time I was the one that reached out and called Matthew. Like I dialed the phone first. I wasn't returning his call because I had taken like every dating class. I reached out to I had done everything. And I remember, gosh, the first teleclass I ever took was something called like smart dating with a couple that was married. They were both therapists, a man and a woman in a relationship, married, and both therapists. And my friend was like, "Oh, you have to do this smart date." And I'm like, "Okay." And a teleclass, like nobody even knew what that was. It was so long ago. And I remember they were talking about, well, men are hunters, and I was so confused. I was like, well, does that mean I'm prey? Because like I'm not a pushover. Like anybody who knows me, you know me, Tricia. I mean,
Yeah.
I am not some wallflower that doesn't share my opinion. I'm no damsel in distress. I'm
Right.
very capable. And so I was like, well, I don't know how to be a bunny rabbit, It was so confusing. So here I was, like, okay. I was like, gosh, he didn't call, he hasn't called today. I really want to talk to him. I'm just going to call. Like, this got silly, right? And I dialed and he answered. And we ended up having this lovely conversation. It was one of our longer conversations in the early part of our dating, but we discovered so much about each other. Like, somehow we ended up talking about camping and some of our favorite camping spots and where we'd like to go that we haven't been. And it was just one of these really sort of easy conversations. Like I remember being a little nervous when I dialed the phone because here I was the one reaching out, and I was like, if I get the voicemail, what kind of mess? I'm just gonna leave a short message, you know what I mean? Like I was trying to keep my dating tips in
Right,
mind.
right. Follow the
But
rules.
yeah, and he answered, and we just had this really lovely conversation. And I'm pretty sure before we hung up, he was like, "Oh, what are you doing tomorrow or the next day or whatever?" I think he made a plan with me to see me, very soon
I love that.
after.
You guys you're so sweet. I love that. But I think easy and flow are good things to look for too, right? Like
Hmm.
certainly,
Yeah.
like you said, feeling like you can be yourself. So
And
important.
with that, because there's an important piece to that, because I
Okay.
think a lot of us are by nature conflict avoidant. And so we show up as easygoing. We go along to get along because we don't want to create conflict. However, if you're going along to get along while you're dating, you're never going to find your person because your person is somebody that when you disagree, when you have differences that you work through them.
Yeah.
You go, oh, here's a difference. Okay, well, what are we going to do about it? Well, let's work through that. Let's figure it out.
I mean,
Let's work our way through this.
yeah. I
And
mean,
if you have differences that you can't work through early on, well, that's a good thing to know,
that's a red flag.
Yes.
right? Because that's a red flag. It's like, this is not your person if you can't work through these differences.
Yes.
So if you're going along to get along, if you're just trying to be
Yeah.
easy, you're not going to find your person.
No, and that's an important thing to say to this audience because we're people pleasers as emotional eaters.
Oh, yes.
So we're not talking about that. I was talking about being able to be yourself and flow,
Yes.
right? Which is different than people pleasing and stuffing your voice.
Absolutely. So in the transformation section of our book, there is an entire chapter called Mastering Your Emotional Life.
Love
And
it.
that mastering your emotional life is so important because you know, there's a buzzword that people say all the time about being authentic, right? Like authenticity is this big buzzword, you know. And
Even dating, you're advised to be yourself.
yeah,
Just
you know,
be yourself.
which doesn't give you something to do. And so we're
Right.
going to define authenticity under the umbrella of dating and the way we
Okay.
use being authentic. And so being authentic is to identify how you feel, not what you think, your feeling state, and sharing that with the other person.
I like that.
And guess what? There's a template right in the book that has a fill in the blank.
I love that.
And I tell people all the time when we assign this to a client, we say, memorize this template and then practice it. And here's the thing, you're not going to get it right 100% of the time. I rarely have disagreements with girlfriends, but I remember it was quite some time ago, probably around a decade ago. I had this disagreement with a girlfriend and it got a little heated. And she said, "You're not using that template you teach." And it was so funny because I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're right." But it clicked me right into filling it out. I was like, "Oop," and then I did it and I used the template because being authentic is sharing how you feel. This is supposed to be an emotionally intimate relationship, not just a physically intimate relationship.
Yeah, I love that.
Because I remember once giving this assignment, in a sense, to one of our clients a long time ago. And this particular person is the only person who's ever said this out of thousands of clients we've had now, you know, well over nearly 20 years of doing this work. And she said, "Well, isn't that going to be annoying just complaining to people all the time?" And I thought, wow, that's really telling that she thinks all of her feelings are negative and or complaining. Because when we say identify how you feel and express it, it's very easy to share when you're feeling good about something. I think particularly women that date men sometimes get really stingy in sharing what's going on with them. And so a man doesn't know how to please that kind of woman. And a man who dates women who doesn't know how to please you will move on to someone else. Because a man who likes you, who is interested in you and wants to share his life with you, will want to know how to make you happier. He will want to know how to bring you joy. And so you have to share all the full range of emotions. I know as people, we want to cherry pick them and we want to only feel the good emotions. But, you know, we hear all the time. I mean, Matthew and I believe wholeheartedly that we are spirit in this physical form. Absolutely. We're a soul and our soul goes on. We believe that. However, why do we come here into this world of 3D and polarity? Well, the only reason we can think of is to feel the full range of human emotion. Because here we are in polarity. We've got left, right, black, white, up, down, good, bad, right? All of that stuff. And so when you really work on that awareness piece, which we walk you through in the book, you start becoming aware of what we call your mental emotional patterns. So you're practicing this very early on to start identifying how you're feeling long before you get to the dating process, so that you can practice making requests and asking for what you want and speaking up for yourself. And the biggest mistake we make when we communicate with another person is we give our power away because we judge the success of our communication based on the response we get from the other person. And that's way too much to give to somebody else. We don't want to give our power away. We don't know what their triggers are, their story, their emotional state, their mood that day. There's just too many unknowns. And so we always say the only way to judge the success of your communication is by how authentic you're able to be. So if you're upset at a level 10, have at it. Express yourself at a level 10. If you're upset at a level 1, you could express yourself then too. Because we have these silly colloquialisms that we use around relationship that just really make me cringe. Like we have the saying that it's one of the ones I dislike the most. And we say, well, pick your battles. And I'm like, ooh, I don't like that. I'm not at war with my husband. We don't have battles.
Yeah.
If I'm upset at a 0.0000001, I could bring it up and say, hey, I have this little oyster fork I need to clean up with you. And he'll be like, oh, okay, what's going on? You know?
And talk about it with your partner. Don't talk about it with your friends or your parents or your
Yes.
neighbors or whoever. Talk about the problem with the person you have the problem with.
Yes.
And then you could actually work through the problem. You can't solve the problem by asking your friends what do they think,
Yeah.
because they're not the person that you have the problem with.
No, and it's always, the fear of expressing yourself, the
Yes.
fear of the reaction, and that's what we have to get over. It's like if it's on our heart and we need to say something, we need to say it regardless, of what the reaction might be. And obviously we need to, I always say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean. That helps.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love that.
But I mean, think about it this way. It's that, we go to the gym for resistance, right? It's we literally go for the resistance to build muscle. And so we always say practice is how you get good at anything. And so when you practice, we call that working out at the emotional authenticity gym. And there's literally like steps to how to do that, to work out at the emotional authenticity gym. And when you do this, you get in the practice of it. This is the beautiful part. People can surprise you. Like we were just having a session earlier today. And we had a session with a client. And she said she's in this place of not expressing herself. We're early in the work. She's a new client. And she said, why, we're like, what is it? What are you saying to yourself about yourself when you clam up? And she said, well, it's why bother? And I said, oh, you sound like Eeyore, from the Winnie the Pooh, right?
Yeah.
Why? It's not going to make a difference. Why bother? And she goes mute. And I said, oh, you're missing out. You're missing out on the opportunity to discover who's going to surprise you. And she was like, wait, Orna, say that again. And I was like, oh, I'm sure I'm going to say it a lot more times, but I'll happily say it again because people will surprise you. I mean, we teach this every day of the week. And you know what? Sometimes I still screw up the template because it's not about doing it perfectly. It's about making best efforts. And I think, back to this perfectionism thing, I'm going to circle back to that because I think it's important because I think sometimes we think that having integrity means we have to be perfect. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Having integrity is how you behave when you make a mistake. Right?
I love
when
that.
you make a mistake, that shows when you have integrity. When you circle back to that person, you go, oh my gosh, I was having a really bad day and I didn't say that. That didn't come out the way I meant. And I'm so sorry. And
I'd like to fix this.
I'd like to fix this
Yeah.
with you. Like, what do you need from me? How can I repair this? Because I value you in my life.
Yeah.
And that's what having integrity means. Remember, perfection is too high a bar. We are perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
Right? And so we can't have perfection as the goal. We can just have our intention, right? Our intention to clean things up, our intention to not be mean or manipulative. And when you really decide that you want to be authentic with somebody, it really shows who's on your team, who can be an ally. So you can start assessing your relationships from an experience of how that person's able to show up for you or not show up for you. And now you're in this place of really evaluating whether somebody is a good match for you. The most important decision you'll ever make is who you share your life with. And most people go about it like buying a lottery ticket. They're putting it up to chance.
Well, so what's really important about this, if anybody hasn't picked up on this book and the wisdom that Orna and Matthew share is good whether you're looking for a mate or you have a mate. Like this is solid relationship wisdom. Solid how to improve a relationship, how to, like fix some of the things that are broken. So it's just a beautiful book. I haven't read it all yet, working on it, and it's just so lovely. So, and it's one of those books you can flip and go anywhere and pick up amazing tools and wisdom. So thank you both so much for your heart, your love for each other that you get to learn from and then share with other people. It's beautiful work that you do. And you've invested so much in your own personal development and then sharing your findings from that and then your findings from sharing your findings. So thank you for that. I have one last question to ask you, and that this being the Heal Your Hunger show, what is your deepest hunger?
Oh, my deepest hunger is to spread love. I think when for us our biggest mission is to transform people so they fall in love with themselves, so they can bring in a beloved life partner, and that spreads out from one person to a couple to their community. And so if you think about the stages of relationship, the fifth stage, there are 5 stages of relationship. Most people only know, the romance phase and the power struggle. No couple skips the power struggle. Spoiler alert. But then there's the stability stage and why am I spacing? The commitment stage. I'm spacing out. And then the 5th stage of relationship is the
bliss,
thanks,
co-creation.
the bliss or co-creation stage. And when you're in that bliss and co-creation with a life partner, it spills out to the community, right? I mean, traditionally it is procreating and raising other people, right? Children and raising them. But for many couples, it's about giving back to the community. Look at older couples that are doing some kind of philanthropy or charity work together, or, starting a nonprofit or giving back to their community, whether, however we do that. And so the source of all of that is love. And so we make the world a better place when we improve our relationship with ourselves, and we get to have more love, because it's the love we have for ourselves that is reflected back to us through our beloved's eyes. And I want to light that up in every human being.
Amen. We're giving from a good friend of mine says we're giving from the saucer, the spillover, and what's in the saucer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, spillover, exactly. Right? How about you, Matthew?
My hunger is really helping people get back into their innate power. The sense that your past does not define you. Just because you've had experiences, some good, some bad, does not mean that you have to continue having those same experiences. You can learn new ways of being, and you can reclaim your true self. You can reclaim who you truly are and step into that. And we see it all the time with our clients. We've experienced it ourselves. We see it in people like you, right? It is so true that when we commit to this journey that we're all on, that we're all very powerful and we're all capable of creating a wonderful, amazing effect on the world around us.
Amen. What a great note to end on. Thank you both. The book is Getting It Right This Time. Don't we all want that? Buy that book, you guys. Anybody who's listening, please buy it, and buy a copy for a friend, because we all need it.
Thank you so much. It is available everywhere books are sold, in bookstores, online, offline, and in every format, hardcover, ebook, and audiobook. And we are the narrators on the audiobook. So we got hired to read narrator on audiobook, which was kind of fun.
Way to go. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Love you. And we have to get together soon for dinner. We got to do that thing we've been talking about doing for a while.
Sounds great.
Would love that. Thank you again for having us back on Healing.
All right, you guys.
Tricia. We love you.
Love you back. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We will see you on the next show. If you're ready to get off the dieting roller coaster ride and finally make peace with food and with your body, talk to a Heal Your Hunger mentor about what steps you need to take based on your own history with food and weight. Go to healyourhunger.com and register for an emotional eating breakthrough session and see how fast you can experience real change. It's a complimentary evaluation, but there are limited spots available. So go to healyourhunger.com and register to speak with a mentor today.